Ich möchte noch kurz, sozusagen, damit wir alle wissen, wer hier steht und was Gerin Trautenberger auch schon alles so gemacht hat, kurz vorstellen. Er arbeitet schon seit 1992 als Art- und Creative Director für unterschiedliche Firmen in Europa und in den USA und war eben von 1992 bis 2005 in 5 verschiedenen Unternehmen, zunächst eben auch als Startup in der IT-Branche, tätig, die bis zuletzt dann 250 Mitarbeiter und Mitarbeiterinnen hatten und das als börsennotiertes Unternehmen. Und dann, 2005, gründete er die Microgiants Industrial Design GmbH, die er nun als Solo-Selbstständiger führt und ist so gesehen einer, der die verschiedensten Rollen und Facetten davon kennt. Und seit 2011 ist er nun Mitglied der European Design Innovation Initiative, um die Europäische Kommission in Fragen der Innovation und Designpolitik zu beraten. Und das ist mit ein Grund, warum wir schon sehr gespannt sind, heute deinen Worten zu lauschen. Aber nun auch, um die vollständige Vorstellung hier zu haben, begrüßen wir ganz besonders Rasmus Tscherning, denn er ist Crossover-Experte aus Dänemark und er ist CEO des weltweit bekannten Creative Business Cup und Chairman der Policy Learning Plattform. Und das ist eben das Beratungsgremium der European Creative Industries Alliance für die Europäische Kommission. Warum ich das alles erzähle, ist einfach, um zu zeigen, es gibt natürlich diesen österreichischen oder wie wir auch vorhin gehört haben, bayerischen Blick, aber der Blick auf die europäische Ebene, auf das Lernen auch auf dieser Ebene, darum soll es jetzt in diesem Expertentalk gehen. Er wird Deutsch und Englisch sein und ich würde sagen, meine Herren, the floor is yours.
Ja, erst einmal danke für die Vorstellung und wenn ich so in den Saal blicke, kann ich nur sagen, wow, 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 wow. So viel Kreative zusammen ist für uns ein großer, großer Erfolg. Also die Kreativwirtschaft Österreich ist wirklich sehr glücklich, dass so viele gekommen sind, wenn wir zu der Nacht der Kreativwirtschaft einladen. Und ich glaube, was ich weiß, auch zum ersten Mal, dass fast 400 Leute in der Kreativwirtschaft so zusammenkommen und gemeinsam Dinge erörtern, beraten und morgen sozusagen in einem Barcamp auch erforschen, wie es weitergehen kann. Also wirklich, wirklich toll. Mir geht es heute ein bisschen darum, über die Kraft der Kreativwirtschaft zu sprechen. Und bei der Kraft geht es auch darum, typische Bild, die fliegende Katze, wie sieht man die Kreativwirtschaft, so ein bisschen verträumt, gleitet sie dahin, springt, spielt, sozusagen macht Kultur, macht Kunst. Ein anderes Bild, das man auch sehen kann, ist sozusagen, dass die Kreativen ein bisschen von dem Kunden davonlaufen. Ja. Wenn wir das Bild auch drehen, dann sind wir eigentlich voraus. Also wie der Staatssekretär sehr deutlich gesagt hat, eigentlich sind wir sozusagen auch voraus. Wir experimentieren, wir erfinden neue Dinge, wir sind der Zeit voraus, wir sind ein bisschen die Avantgarde. Manche Kunden sind auch ein bisschen wie die Creepers, die sehr ungeheuerlich sind und hin und wieder explodieren. Da ist es ganz gut, wenn wir ein bisschen voraus sind und ein bisschen weiter weg sind. Aber das Bild, das sozusagen die fliegende Katze auch weitertragen könnte, wäre, dass wir die Kunden eigentlich vorantreiben, ja? Dass wir sozusagen für die Kunden das Feld bereiten und sie voranbringen. Und die Kraft der Kreativwirtschaft, wir haben heute schon gehört, es gibt in Österreich 400.000 Unternehmen ungefähr, 10% davon sind in der Kreativwirtschaft zu Hause. In der Kreativwirtschaft gibt es 140.000 Beschäftigte und 40.000 Selbstständige, also 40.000 Unternehmer. Und zusammen erwirtschaften wir 20 Milliarden Umsatz und Wertschöpfung vor Steuer, also Bruttowertschöpfung, immerhin noch 8 Milliarden. Und das ist wirklich eine erstaunliche Zahl. Und das Interessante ist, es gibt sozusagen in der Kreativwirtschaft nicht ein Werkstag, wo in der Früh alle Kreativen hineingehen und am Abend wieder rausgehen und man sieht dann sozusagen wie bei der Föst, wie viel Stahl herauskommt. Wenn wir sozusagen diese Zahlen kumulieren, zusammenzählen, ist die größer als das chemische Gewerbe oder die Maschinenerzeugungsgewerbe zusammen. Und das ist wirklich eine große, große Zahl. Und wir haben uns das auch einmal ausgerechnet, wir erwirtschaften als Kreativwirtschaft mehr als der Tourismus. Ja? Und der Tourismus ist eine Leitindustrie in Österreich. Ja? Und das ist sozusagen, weil wir die Kreativen distribuiert arbeiten, dass wir zu Hause arbeiten oder in Shared Spaces, aber nicht so sichtbar sind. Und das ist auch eine interessante Zahl, die ich immer wieder gerne vortrage. Es ist eine Studie aus England vom Design Forum, vom Design Council. Wenn ein Unternehmen 100 € in Kreativität oder da im Speziellen in Design investiert, ist das Turnover, was zurückkommt für den Unternehmer, 250 €. Also der Faktor sozusagen, den der Unternehmer erwirtschaften kann, wenn er in Design investiert. Also wie splitten sich diese Kreativwirtschaftsunternehmen auf? Ja? Wir haben sozusagen 63%, also 63% sind EPUs, also Einzelpersonenunternehmen, 37% sind sozusagen KMUs in der gesamten Summe von 40.000. Aber 83% dieser Unternehmen arbeiten auf spezielle Kundenwünsche hin, kundenspezifische Innovationen. 60% machen eigene Innovationen, arbeiten an eigenen Produkten. Und 50% arbeiten mit dem Kunden an Innovationen zusammen. Und 40% aller Unternehmer, aller Kreativunternehmen arbeiten für den Export. Und 75% dieser Unternehmen sind in Netzwerken organisiert. Also wir sehen, dass die Kreativwirtschaft, und das ist auch, was der Staatssekretär gesagt hat, wir sind die Zukunft. Wir arbeiten so, wie in der Zukunft die Wirtschaft funktionieren wird. Also wir können ein Vorbild sein dafür. Eine interessante Studie, die wir auch in Auftrag geben von Zeit zu Zeit, also in Abständen von 5 Jahren, ist eine Netzwerkstudie mit dem FAS Research gemeinsam. Und da ist es sehr stark darum gegangen, wie arbeiten die Kreativen zusammen. Und das FAS Research hat da sozusagen eine mehrdimensionale Chart entwickelt, Identität, Idee und Ressourcen. Und es gibt sozusagen verschiedene Arten der Netzwerke. Und wir sehen typisch Film, Foto, Wissenschaft, Multimedia, das sind typische Netzwerke, wo sehr wenig Identität herrscht, sehr wenig Ressourcen ist, aus vielen Gründen. Und diese Netzwerke zerfallen sehr leicht wieder. Die gehen zusammen, aber zerfallen sehr leicht. Wir haben auf der Achse nach oben, haben wir so typisch Design, PR. Das ist zum Beispiel, wenn sich Firmen zusammentun mit Kreativen, um einen Pitch zu gewinnen, einen Wettbewerb. Sehr viel Umsatz, sehr viel Energie, aber diese Netzwerke zerfallen auch, weil sie sozusagen nicht diese starken Kit haben. Also gibt es sozusagen diesen Spot-Market, für Pitches gehen diese Gruppen schnell zusammen, gehen aber nachher wieder auseinander. Wir haben auf der anderen Seite Identität, sehr hohe Identität, wenig Ressourcen, typisch bei Architektur, Mode, Musik und auch sozusagen im Buchmarkt, wo es sehr starke Netzwerke gibt, aber die nicht miteinander, sozusagen untereinander vernetzt sind. Und natürlich das Ideal ist oben ein Netzwerk, das stark strukturiert ist, einen starken Kern hat, das sehr viele andere Unternehmen anzieht, zusammenbringt, zum Beispiel wie es in Wien funktioniert, aber ein gutes Beispiel ist auch CO3. Genau dieses starke Zentrum, das eine hohe Identität vermittelt, aber auch diese Ressourcen hat, um diese Identität zu stabilisieren. Das Interessante ist auch, diese Netzwerke, wie funktionieren diese Netzwerke? Und da haben wir uns den Schumpeter angeschaut. Also Schumpeter war ein wichtiger Ökonom, österreichischer Ökonom, der von der kreativen Zerstörung gesprochen hat. Kreative Zerstörung in dem Zusammenhang bedeutet, dass man eine Art Resilienzzyklus eingeht. Ideen entstehen, auf welcher Art auch immer entstehen Ideen, kommen in die Prime-Phase, es gibt die Krise, also entweder eine eigene Krise oder sozusagen eine externe Krise. Man besinnt sich zurück, geht wieder an den Anfang, reorganisiert sich, um wieder neu aufzusteigen. Und das ist das Interessante, dass wir Kreative sozusagen intrinsisch diese Möglichkeiten haben, weil wir strukturell anders arbeiten als der Rest der Wirtschaft. Ja. Wir sind sozusagen strukturell, haben wir einen Vorteil, dass wir sozusagen das Wissen in unserem Kopf haben. Wir haben nicht 10.000 Tonnen Stahl oder Schrauben im Garten, den wir warten müssen, bis uns der wer abkauft, sondern wir sind unsere eigenen Herren, wir können unsere eigene Arbeit verkaufen, wir können auch relativ einfach auf Krisen reagieren, wir können uns verändern, wir können auf die neuen Ansprüche, auf die neuen Anforderungen eingehen und können sozusagen auch dadurch besser reagieren. Aber das hat auch den Vorteil, dass die Kunden, die mit uns zusammenarbeiten, das haben wir gesehen in den letzten Jahren, in der Zeit der Krise, dass wir den Kunden helfen können, diese Krise auch besser zu bewältigen. ja, wie charakterisiert sich jetzt die Kreativwirtschaft? Klar, sie ist kreativ, sie ist kleinteilig, sie ist wissensaffin, innovativ natürlich, kundenorientiert, und da sehen wir, dass es wirklich ein wichtiger Faktor ist der Kreativwirtschaft, und international. Und da muss ich sagen, dass wir versuchen, das sind eigentlich die Kernbotschaften, wie Kreativität funktioniert, wie kreative Netzwerke funktionieren. In dieser Form versuchen wir auch morgen bei dem Barcamp auch klarzumachen, dass das eigentlich das Wesen der Kreativwirtschaft ist und dass diese Effekte der Kreativwirtschaft einfach bewerkstelligt sein müssen, damit sie funktioniert. Und daher auch für morgen sozusagen ein anderes Emotikon und wünsche für morgen gutes Gelingen. Danke vielmals.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation here to Vienna. I know in an audience like this with lots of creatives, I should mention that when I was 18, I won a design competition. It was for the Scandinavian Open Championships in synchronized swimming in 1986, and also in 2009, I won an architecture together with a team, a master plan for a part of Copenhagen, so you don't only see me as a boring political scientist, because that's my education and that's what I've been passionate about. What can policy do for the culture and creative industries? And they can do a lot. Ich könnte eigentlich auch diesen Vortrag in Deutsch machen, and that's thanks to a creative industry, a creative product. When I was a kid, living in Denmark, we had one Danish TV station, but 3 German ones. And the German ones, even everyone said Hände hoch in the Westerns. So I do actually can thank creative industries, the German television stations, for the fact that I do speak and understand German. But I'll keep it like this just to make sure that you keep on your toes, you guys. What you see up here is a piece of Danish products. Actually, in the product, you probably know that the Opera House in Sydney was by a Danish architect, and Lego, you probably also know, is Danish. And my presentation here today is not going to be so much about how big and important the creative industries are, you already heard that, but how important they are for innovation and growth in the rest of society. So we shouldn't ask ourselves, what can we do for the creative industries? You're doing fine, you look like you're getting food on the table. But we should ask ourselves, what can you, the creative companies, do for health, welfare technology, for transportation, for sustainability, etc., refugees, all the problems that society is facing. And that's what I've been set out. And it's amazing, you would think Lego is a creative company with 17,000 employees, one of the biggest toy manufacturers in the world. I think them and Mattel is changing who is the biggest every year. They didn't come up with the idea of Lego architecture. Lego architecture is a new business idea that started 4 or 5 years ago, and it was an American architect that came up to Lego and said, why don't you make some boxes for adults where they can build iconic buildings from around the world, the Empire State Building, etc. And Lego said, no, we don't believe that. We're a toy manufacturing company. And then this architect said, well, then I'll just buy the bricks from you and produce my own boxes and start selling them. And then Lego kind of still followed him while he was doing it, and they suddenly discovered he drove a bigger and bigger car. That's what they say. And then eventually, as they do with Americans, they settled out of court, bought the idea, and now it's one of the most successful new business lines that Lego has. Just to tell you that even a highly creative company like Lego needs input from creatives just like you to actually think outside the box, the Lego box in this case. Why do we do it? I'm going to skip a couple of slides because we're running a little bit late, but because of regional development, that's why we're bidding for Olympics, etc., and we want to win the Eurovision Song Contest. We know that it's growth industries, but more importantly, it's also value creation in other sectors. So maybe we shouldn't look so much at the creative industries as B2C. We know that you produce clothes and music and books that we can read, but maybe also more partnerships and B2B to established companies. And I know it's very vast. What are the creative industries? It's anything from Madonna to H&M but we know for a fact now, we've done several studies in the EU, that the creative industries is a sector also. On one hand, I've been saying, don't look at it as a sector, but it is a sector. The challenges that an architect is facing is very similar to the challenges that someone producing music is facing. And I think Cirque du Soleil is also a good example. For 11 years, it got public support as an arts from the Canadian Arts Agency. So there's no discrepancy necessarily between something that's for the art's sake and that has an artistic value and something that has a commercial value. Have any of you taken the ferry from Copenhagen to Oslo? And will admit it? Some of you may have. Is it just for idiots? And the reason why I put this up is because it's cheaper and faster to fly or drive, but there's still thousands of people every year that take the ferry to Oslo from Copenhagen. It doesn't make any sense if you're an economic man or woman. So what are they really selling? Is DFDS Seaways and this ferry, are they in the transportation sector? Should they, when they submit something to the Statistical Office of Denmark, tick transportation, or should they tick entertainment? They actually had a decline in passengers for a while, and then they teamed up with a nightclub and concert house, the biggest one in Scandinavia that I was on the board on for a while. Oops, that was too fast. There we go. We'll keep it like this. No, it goes too fast. Anyway, and they discovered that they should work on the experience of the trip to Oslo. You know, it was all about the drinks in the bar, also the light. The people that ran this ferry, they thought that a good nightclub is dark, so you can go and have fun. But actually, people have spent a lot of time to look nice and look sexy. And they also told the people, and it's a trick for you guys, if you ever want to need a new boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or a husband, you look better if light comes from underneath. So when you're trying to score someone, as we say in Danish, then you want to put the lights on the floor, because then you would look much better. And I know this is very Danish and politically incorrect. They told the people at the ferry that good-looking breasts is not an operation, it's a question of good lighting. So I'm going to skip the next slide here, because we already talked about that, and also I got more clever as I talked to Gerin earlier. There we go. So much you guys special, the creative companies. Well, you're more international than the rest of the economy. Your products can go abroad right away, even if you are a TV series from Denmark with a strange language with 28 vowel sounds, it can go all over the place. IPR is more crucial for the business than the rest of the economy, not just protecting it and make sure that the Chinese are not copying it, but maybe you want people to copy it and pay you for it, of course. You want to exploit it, your IPR. Business development and financing are greater challenges than for other SMEs. And I'm also think it's important to remember that the creative industry is not just about IT and digital media. There are lots of great companies, as Lego is showing, and Cirque du Soleil, in the tactile industries, in what we touch and feel and do. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. I teach MBA students in Copenhagen, American MBA students, creative industries, and I ask them every year, how many of you have seen The Wizard of Oz? And for some reason, these young people between 25 and 35, they've all seen The Wizard of Oz. And what is the explanation for that? What makes this creative product something that has greater importance to American cultural heritage than the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia or the Statue of Liberty, for that matter? They all seen it. They all relate to it. What is it? What kind of things have the producers done here or the directors done? And I think great creative products, they tap into something. Let's imagine a river underneath all of us, where you can tap into something that's universal, that crosses borders and also time zones. And I think this is a good example. Some of you that already heard me speak in Linz in June have probably seen this slide. You know Piet Mondrian, I hope. I don't expect you to know this Danish painter Hornstedt, but I'm asking you to look intensely at these two paintings. I'm going to ask you a question, and your gut is going to know the answer before your brain is going to know the answer. That's how George Bush made most of his decisions, apparently. But look at these two paintings. If they were airlines, who would you fly with? So, of course, design, surface, how it looks, how it feels, how it smells, how it sounds, is important for guiding consumers and guiding citizens in a certain direction. I was chairman of the European Creative Industries Alliance, together with some great people from Austria also. So I've heard about, and also we use many of your examples in the EU and in the ECIA, especially when it comes to stimulating innovation and growth by enabling cross-sectoral collaboration. So your innovation voucher schemes have been copied by many other regions and many other countries in Europe. Better business support for effective regional ecosystems. There's something about nearness and clusters that is really important for the creative industries. It's also access to finance, investor readiness, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, also measuring and raising awareness of the value of creative industries. This is also about having people like Gerin and the Kreativwirtschaft Austria, someone that the government can actually talk to about the problems and the challenges facing creative industries and the potential that they have. That is often lacking. It's very few countries that have that. We have the Creative Industries Council in the UK, we have Top Sector in the Netherlands, but in general, we have the film industry that say that they are the most important. We have the designers, they are the most important people in the world when it comes to creative industry. So it's rare that there is someone speaking with one voice, which is very different than the tobacco industry or the transportation industry or the windmills or whatever. I just want to end up with saying I run, as mentioned before, a Creative Business Cup, which is looks like a competition for creative companies, startups from all over the world. 50 countries, 55 countries are participating. 5,000 startups come. Austria won last year. I don't know if you know that, but BliTab, an iPad for blind people, won the Creative Business Cup last year. But what is also important with Creative Business Cup is that large companies have started asking me, what's the future of food? And I say, I don't know. But then I ask among the 5,000 startups, can you give me some ideas? 200 companies came with ideas for the future of the meal and the food. And this big dairy company from Denmark, they got inspiration from a Portuguese sardine producer in how to produce dairy products. So you can, in your open innovation strategies and what you do, I think there's lots of potential of helping these big elephants become more like gazelles by working with gazelles like the startups. So anyway, and we had great also pleasure working with the AWS in being one of our partners in this, because there is an agenda around the world on how can we help creatives take their role in society. You know, how can they contribute more? How can they get out of their co-working spaces that's so popular? So what are the dangers? One of the dangers here is, this is from a Danish game that became number 5 in 2010 on Xbox. The first support that they got was from the Ministry of Culture in Denmark, from the Arts Agency, because they thought the artistic value of this game, it's a little boy that has to save his little sister in a dark Scandinavian Nordic forest, humid and damp. The artistic values were so great that they deserved to be supported. Later on, it also had commercial value, and I think what we should be careful with here is thinking in silos, thinking in certain sectors. I think eventually making statistics like you just presented should be more and more difficult, because you don't know what is a bank. It's been disrupted by all kinds of startups from the creative industries, including what is transportation these days. So hopefully in 10, 15 years' time, it will be impossible to make statistics on creative industries, because you will be all over the place, like you already are in many cases. So let me end here by thanking you for your attention. I hope to see you in Copenhagen in November for the Creative Business Cup, and I'll also hang out afterwards a bit and talk to you. But maybe you have some additional questions from me.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. So thank you again for coming that long way to Austria. But as I understood now, it's that you see also Austria as a role model for on the financing part of in Europe.
I think Austria is in many ways a role model. What you have been doing here is, if you look in this, the create, innovate, grow, you will find quite a few Austrian examples and cases, and also quite a few Austrian experts that have contributed to it. In financing, yes, partly because of your innovation vouchers and how you use structural funds and etc. in this way. That has been good. And also, I think just that you have a very coherent and very you're not fighting each other. You're all collaborating. You're in this together, and that is really positive to see. So I've had the opportunity of visiting Austria many times over the last couple of years. You really you have a coherent force, and you're really working together in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. That's always good to hear. You know, I mean, maybe you can give also an outlook a little bit on European level, because you were the president of the European Creative Industries Alliance, and you had a recommendation towards the European Union, but also towards national on national level. So how you see the future prospects of creative industries and the relations?
Well, I think these recommendations were partly directed towards the EU, Brussels, but only partly. I think a small part of it was about the policies that they do. It was much more directed towards countries, cities, and regions and what they can do. And many of them have taken it and started implementing new ways of educating business angels that they shouldn't just look for great opportunities in clean tech and med tech and ICT. They should also look in other areas where there might be a higher and faster rate of return. So a lot of them have done it already, but we're also here together with the AVS actually trying to mount a regional initiative where regions of Europe can work together on implementing the recommendation. And here again, there's some great Austrians and AVS working on that initiative. So on a European level, I would say we're not going to see a creative industries policy. We're going to tweak policies. You probably all, those of you who work in the cultural sector, you all know that Creative Europe has become, from being an art support collaboration program to becoming really growth of jobs and innovation. Creative Europe has become, during the times of crisis and negotiations in the council, much more a vehicle for an industrial policy. But it is still about supporting the movies and the film sector. But I don't think that we will in the near future see the European creative industries policy as such. But we're going to see policies in Horizon 2020 and in other, we're going to see the creative industries pop up, and that might be just as good, because then we're not saying, we're being part of the rest of the industries, we're not being something separate.
Okay, so it's a lot to do still to pop up these different policies. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for this insight. And yeah, you stay a little bit longer afterwards. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.